Hello and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy, Clinton Bonner, as we are doing a Hard Knocks post-episode recap. So hopefully everybody tuned in right when it was available on HBO if you're going to follow along with this conversation, because we were right there at the beginning, and here we go, buddy.
Blue Angels, the whole thing already, Brandon. Spoiler alert. The spoilers will spill out. So if you have not watched it yet, well, I don't know what to tell you. Get in. But Brandon, winners get sprinkles. And our Seattle Seahawks got a whole bunch of sprinkles. And I feel like the entire content community and all the 12s, all the flockers, that was fun. And it was like, I was very kind of enamored with, I love storytelling and I kind of like documentaries in general. But dude, 55 minutes and there's probably 3, 4, 5 major storylines they pumped in there. And I'm excited to see what you thought was the most, like, maybe flashy or fun or exciting or net new for you. But dude, kudos to the people who put that all together, because that's a lot to jam in one episode in 1 week of NFL, preseason. That was awesome.
They packed in America. With the Blue Angels and the Eagle.
The bald Eagles. Yep.
They packed in vomit. They packed in Brady Russell getting peed on. Yeah. And they packed in a monster truck, like right at the beginning, with Minotaur Derick Hall rolling in the truck that I think we all wish that we had when we were 10 years old.
The coolest part about that truck is that when you watch Derick Hall, on whatever other stuff you might follow him, you realize he puts those things together. Like, that's the cool part. Like, he doesn't just go buy a cool truck. He works on trucks like that with his hands and his brain. So kudos to Derick Hall, not just for the short shorts, because boy, oh boy, Brandon, they were leaving little to the imagination.
The short shorts, I know Lisa was excited about the short shorts and Derick Hall. We've got our live executive producer, Ryan911, coming in with a $9.99 super chat. That was awesome. I need a get the F lined up hoodie. Maybe we start there with our favorite lines, because I've got a question for you, Clinton.
Yes.
Where's my super suit?
Amazing. Love Leo breaking out, The Incredibles breaking out, Samuel L. Jackson, Frozone. I got to tell you, I want to hear about your favorite line as well from the entire episode too. But for me, I went into this, Brandon, really in love with the man Leo Williams. I exit this maybe more in love with the man Leo Williams. Didn't think it was possible. Did not think it was possible, Brandon. But here I am 55 minutes later being like, that dude might be my favorite human being on the entire planet. And I don't know what to say about it. Just he's got it all. And there was other things he did in this episode that I thought were really cool too. But I love that line. What was your favorite line or most memorable for you?
Okay. My favorite part, it was actually a combination of lines between two people, because you had little Jack Macdonald in the office out looking over the football field, and he's saying to his mom, football, football. And then the very next line you hear is Sam Darnold saying football.
Yeah. Great editing. Did you notice? So Jack Macdonald's, he's got a driver in the office. That's always great with the mom there. I think her name's Stephanie. And did you notice the jersey that little Jack Macdonald was rocking?
He was rocking Mr. Witherspoon's jersey.
He sure was. That's right. A 21 jersey, right? So just these little droplets, just these little things, these little hints. That section where they really kind of just dialed in with Schneider, and then back to Spoon in his car. He's like, when you got a player like me, he's like, just pay me. It was kind of simple. Like, just pay a great, unbelievable corner that could do all the things that I can go do. Did you exit? We talked about it this week a bit in a couple different shows. Did you exit this episode more confident, less confident that Spoon will get paid? And like on the Soonometer, what did you think? Anything changed for you?
I think I exited being confident, because I don't think that they set up that storyline without it paying off, right? Yeah. Because they've kind of set it up now with, okay, they talked about the agent and John Schneider being real concerned about that Spoon was wigged out by the fact that it went out in the media and felt like it was the organization trying to pressure him, and them going, hey, you gotta get on the phone with the agent to say it wasn't coming from us. then you had Spoon in the car. So I feel like it's getting the ball rolling to pay off before the end of Hard Knocks.
I like that. So what was it, 5-episode run? Correct. So we got 4 more.
5 episodes. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe by the time, because it's one of those things where if there's a real arc, you don't do this in like episode 5. You take care of it somewhere like 3.5, 4, so you could like continue the Spoon story and the arc into the season without worry hanging over you. You know, like you watch a superhero movie, the last scene is not him beating the villain. They beat the villain, and then there's some conclusion where storylines wrap up. So this is Hollywood after all, Brandon. So 3.5 weeks in or so, Spoon will be signed, put it in the books.
I do feel like, yeah, there's a story to be told there, and the fact that they started with that. Just the idea, too, of what a great thing for Hard Knocks, and appreciate Michael Knight coming in with the $10 super chat. But
yes,
what a great thing for Hard Knocks, because so much in the past, we get bad teams, and now we get the Super Bowl champions. And so we get to see what it's like. And it started off in the episode, right, with the ring ceremony, and gosh, the friggin' rings dropping down from the ceiling so that everybody could get theirs all at the same time. And that was almost as wild as Derick Hall's truck.
Almost. I love the very, very beginning with the rings. We knew they came down from the ceiling. We saw that on social media previously. What I loved was I like a little bit buzzed John Schneider. I'm a fan of a little bit buzzed John Schneider. He gets a little loose, and you can see in the very beginning, I think he's talking to Kupp, because Cooper already saw the ring, because I think he was like, because Cooper's at everything. Cooper's at Taylor Swift's wedding. Cooper is a coach, and Cooper would apparently help design the ring with De Beers. But all these things, but you get John a little bit loose. You see he's got a glass of beer, very fancy Art Deco glass of beer, by the way. Very nice, very classy. But you get John a little bit loose. You can hear a little bit of a slur to his speech, and you can see he's having fun. And then you get Mike with a little bit of scotch, nice and neat, classy. And then you see John back up on the stage, and he's cheersing while everybody's celebrating the Super Bowl. So the rings, that was a cool start. And it was one other thing I think that also you mentioned, like we got bad teams and some bad organizations in years past with Hard Knocks. In general, I think the Seattle organization looks great. Not only are they Super Bowl champions, but like the facilities, the VMAC, the setting, the team, the coach, the smarts, the fired upness of the assistant coaches, the depth of some of the veterans on this team. Like the holistic picture so far is like, this is an extremely well organization. And while some things in Hollywood are, kind of fan fiction, Brandon, I don't think that one is actually, they don't got to stretch to be like, this is a very well-run organization.
Yeah. And I think that's got to be one of the big takeaways to start things off, right? It was that just the approach and the way of building it. We've gotten little bits here and there through the press conferences, through the reporting of what it sounds like behind the scenes, but then the cameras take us into we get to see the PowerPoint up on the screen of how they want to do things, and talking about, I wasn't super happy that they let loose Mike Macdonald's secret sauce and him quoting the secret sauce is connection, because I really do think that that's what it is. And so I think he's onto something there. So beyond all that, I think that one of the cooler things for me too was this was the first time that we got to see Coach Mike with just one-on-one with individual players, and seeing how those types of interactions go.
Yeah, I mean, and he seems a bit even more natural in the one-on-one settings, where he seems to be probably still finding his voice as a head coach. And I love when he's in front of the full room, he knows it, but he's got a little bit of Michael Scott to him, but in an endearing way. But he's an insanely competent Michael Scott. Like, take all the great things that Michael Scott is as a caring human being for the humans he cares for, right? In a fictional show. But he's got that awkwardness, and he leans into that awkwardness in front of a larger crowd. One-on-one, he puts on the psychology hat strongly, right? And really kind of keeps the team and the players individually. seemingly focused on what they need to focus on. I think the Emmanwori piece was pretty cool. It's nice that like Mike could have a conversation like that in front of cameras and all that jazz. But he, like, to me, he didn't have to go say too much to Nick. He actually could be like, what do you think I'm going to say? Like, you've heard this before. What do you think I'm going to say here? And that was kind of neat. I like that as well, Brandon. So don't know if you had more about his kind of psychology hat, or I also wanted to ask you about, did anything concern you? I just brought up Emmanwori. Any concerns about that piece or anything else we saw in the episode?
I suppose the concern is just around the concern that how much emphasis they put on Emmanwori being an important part of that defense. We got Jay Scott AZ in chat saying, in a way, his philosophy seems the opposite of the do your job idea. Do your job feels so individual focused. And the one thing that I liked from Mike with that interaction with Nick Emmanwori was him saying, the number one thing is what's best for you and the team. And that was the quote that I took away from that. The next thing was how even you got to see even Coach Mike taking receipts, right? The Rex Ryan bit and him saying this new hotshot coordinator is terrible, and how that stuck with them. And he's even kept taking note of that and how he's turned Rex Ryan around from that.
Yeah, I do. It's nice because you don't really get even that side of Mike too often, or think that he's, we all have a bit of pettiness, and maybe that's pettiness, maybe it's not, but just that I'm going to keep that in my little locker and keep that chip on my shoulder type thing. And, for Mike at this point, he's so young, and yet he has very little, in my opinion, to prove as an NFL coach, which has got to be his own battle, but I think he's wired extraordinarily well to not only lead the men in that room and everybody in the organization, but to keep challenging himself in a way too. I think while he's talking about the 91 Bulls, which is cool, and about, hey, Phil Jackson got basically Michael Jordan to spread the ball around, or the team to stop relying on Jordan to dump 50 every night, and they got better as a team. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I understand the point of like, yeah, we want to go get better, but we were 17-3 last year, and I didn't feel like there was a Michael Jordan. It felt like, to me, last year was more like, well, that was kind of like the 91 Bulls already somehow. Right. So maybe is the point, well, we could just march on to the 92, 93 portion of this. That was more my
takeaway of it, is just that importance of, that was what got them there the first time, and now this is what we need to continue to go on to do the 2-peat, 3-peat type thing. So that was definitely more of my takeaway with it. And Amy Holmes in chat saying, didn't feel as much like receipts, as I don't want to be the guy that cares about that anymore. Because, that was one of the things that we heard from Mike, too, is that he was that guy.
Yeah.
No, has moved on from that.
Yeah, very, very good point, Amy. Way to dissect that further. You ain't wrong, as we'd say. So that was, the Emmanwori part was interesting to me as well. Not just the conversation, but the clear. And again, HBO is going to capture what they capture, and they're going to create narratives. That's what documentaries do. You leave out way, way more than you put in. That's just the way it goes. But he still said what he said about, like, when he's sitting around the couch being like, hey, if we don't have Nick, he's a pretty big freaking loss, right? And he has to look around and be like, right? So interesting. And, hopefully Nick is just making his way back easily to week 1. But I mean, dude, it's August 4th right now, and we play a game in 35 days. So
not right.
I just, what's September 9, right? So
yeah,
I just wonder if he'll be actually ready if he's scooting about a week ago. It seems a little bit, it seems a little unreasonable to think he'll be out there full speed if last week he was scooting around.
Yeah, well, that'll be part of the storyline too. So we'll get to see how that continues to go. Michael Knight in chat saying, I have even less doubt now. We are building a dynasty based solely on the quality of brass we have. Hopefully the new ownership team stays out of the building. Yes, we can hope that it just continues to build on last season. DJ Nichols saying, more than the talent on the team. Mike's whole philosophy has me delusional that we really can repeat. I don't think it's delusion to think that it can, to think that we can't repeat. Marlon85 saying, do you think a deal has been done but waiting to make a storyline? I don't think that they would be able to keep that under wraps, Marlon, but I think that they probably know enough between the two sides that it has to resolve itself, I think, by the start of the season. I think that I just don't know if they would feature it that much if both sides don't have that sense that there's going to be a resolution at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's more where I was going with it. Not necessarily that I think that they're keeping it under wraps only to resolve it on the show.
Well, and it's also not that big of a surprise. Right? It's going to happen. He's going to get paid. And the nice part from this, the last thing I'd say about Spoon is, he's not sitting there with a grump on his face. He's there. He's very, very engaged. He's having fun. He's barking. He's talking, talking his talk. And he's out there smiling, so he's not sitting there like, woe is me. I haven't gotten my $150 million extension yet. He knows it's coming, which I think is really cool. So Brandon, there was, let's say there was a segment on Sam. There was a segment on Eman. There was a segment on Spoon. One player and room we haven't talked about yet at all. We haven't talked running backs yet. What did you think about the running back segment in general and some of the shine that they were clearly putting on JD or JP very, very early in his career?
Yeah, we got to see senior offensive assistant and running backs coach Thomas Hammock leading the meeting room there, and that was interesting. I think we had
F-bomb, Thomas, the F-bomb Hammock.
Thomas, the F-bomb Hammock. Yes.
He likes that word.
No censorship on HBO, so you get it all. And yeah, so we didn't get to hear from Jadarian Price, but we got to hear from all of the teammates. We even got to hear a little bit from the coaches. We got to see Coach Ham saying that he doesn't talk much, but that he's very competitive. We got to see Spoon and Byron Murphy both being impressed with Jadarian Price. We got to see him catching passes downfield. So, yeah, he was well featured despite not being mic'd up.
Yeah, well said. The Price stuff, of all the things you just mentioned, the footage is gorgeous. He's carved out of marble. He's absolutely jacked. He did speak a little bit, right? He had like a little segment where he was talking off camera, like 1-to-1. He did. He was like in the facility. And extremely, extremely smart dude coming from Notre Dame. And so to go from Notre Dame, which is very, very well run, and from a college football sense, to the Seahawks, very well run. He seems very grateful to be there, which I think is amazing and very cool to see. The Byron Murphy stuff, when he's talking about Price's cutback ability, like, to me, that's the biggest blossoming, like, okay, cool. First of all, Murphy knows a lot about stopping the run in the NFL. A lot. And when he could spot a talent that could cut back upfield and go back against the grain, okay, so that whatever they're running right and the lane and it overshifts and he has to break it back left and, bounce it around the edge or take it back through the 3 or something like that. But to hear Murphy be like, yeah, the way he moves when he wants to cut it back against the grain, he's like, that's something. So that got me excited, Brandon, because again, Murphy's seen a lot. And this goes back to his Texas days. He played high level college football, and he's been on a heck of a line. So that part in particular, mixed with the footage, I was like, oh man, I think Price's stock in general, like fantasy football stock and all that stuff, I guarantee you his stock as, oh man, he might be the starter, is rising as we speak.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they give us any more shots of the board and the general manager. I don't know if it was in John Schneider's office, but I think it was.
Right. When they had the blank
the
names.
board that they had all the names and everything was blurred out, but obviously they were pointing at the running back where it was about 5 deep, and you had one pushed in a little bit, which I have to assume was Zach Charbonnet because he's injured. And so, how do you know if there's a couple names above, or you could see there was a couple names above there, and you could see in the quarterbacks area too, where it was you had one name
One,
and then you had two side
then
by
two.
side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You noticed
So
that too, right?
I
Very good.
try and pick up as much as I can because
know.
you know.
The cameras are there, you know, for us Matlocks. Now I have to admit, when you just said what you said, that the cameras blurred the names, I didn't realize that. I was like, oh, they're just all blank and they're setting them up for later. I literally thought that. That's what I thought. And they're like, of course, they just blurred the names, dumb. So that's on me. That's me. That's dumb. But that what you said makes a lot of sense because that was true. But the quarterback part was interesting, right? Just like, okay, you know, so is there a battle at 2? And
well, we heard there was a battle at 2,
correct,
based off of what Ian Rappaport's reporting, right? And we kind of made fun of it a little bit. Well, of course, you know, the two quarterbacks behind Sam are going to be battling, but when you see the names side by side, it does, I think, give that maybe a little more. It gives the reporting a little bit more. There's more to it than just the obviousness of it.
Well, and the thing with this team is we talk about it a lot. It's a deep roster. So when you get down to 53 in your practice squad and who can you sneak to the practice squad? Look, keeping 3 quarterbacks, it stops you from keeping one other dude who might be Emmanuel Henderson, right? If Cody White's the second, just guys like that are like solid. So that part's very interesting to me too, because whatever I think Adams do better was the guy who like had these trade ideas and was like, trade Milroe. It's like, no, I think the way more likely scenario, if they were to make a trade, would be if Milroe progresses the way he seems to be, would be one quarterback is going to get hurt. I hate to say it. I'm not saying a Seahawks quarterback. I mean, a quarterback in the NFL is going to get hurt in the next 4 weeks.
Right.
And if Milroe is ready to take over that true 2 spot, well, then you trade Drew. You say, Drew, go ahead, go play football.
Be a number 1 somewhere.
Go play, go throw the ball around, dude. You know you can, and you give him a crack to go do that, and you probably recoup a 3rd or a 4th because of the need. Not that he would get that in normally, but in that situation, he might garner that. Right. Especially if it's a team that feels that they could compete, or if it's like the quarterback's out for 6 weeks, not the full year type thing. Stuff happens, so it'll just be interesting to watch. We played the Cowboys on the 15th, I think, is the first game. How much Milroe we see, how progressed he is. But I mean, we didn't get a lot of him in Hard Knocks. I know we're reviewing that now, but we got a lot of Milroe this past week, and he does look markedly better. So certainly something to watch.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we get a little more depth at the quarterback battle as we go throughout the Hard Knocks. The one thing we haven't talked about yet was what was featured at the end, Clinton, and that was the fighting.
Yeah.
We got some fighting.
I didn't mind it, you know, especially as you watch. I don't think Mike, more importantly, like, what do I mind it? It's like, oh, cool. Yeah, dude. But more importantly, Mike Macdonald didn't mind it either. He didn't like some of the cheap stuff. He didn't like some of the kind of name calling stuff. And he called that out.
That he didn't like. He
called out directly.
He called it out and
right.
Yeah, tried to fix the issue.
But and as it was starting to simmer, it's because Mike's like, hey, we're losing this. We're losing 15-1. He's like, we're losing 16-1, the way, however they keep their scoring mechanism, like play by play, or maybe it's series by series, probably play by play. But he's like, hey, defense, you're getting your ass handed to you by the offense over and over and over. I mean, you know, in a hockey game, you go down 2-0, 3-0, and you're getting pushed around. Usually somebody drops the gloves. You try to stimulate something, and you try to literally try to manufacture something to create a spark. It's no different. Luckily, you know, no one's getting hurt and stuff like that. I personally don't mind the fighting whatsoever. You know, and then if they want to get mad at Hall for ripping a guy down from the back,
from behind,
from cable do, don't hurt anybody. That's all. But the chippiness, I think, is very, very healthy in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that, well, and that's something that we see in every training camp. I feel like I haven't watched Hard Knocks, but I have to imagine that's not the first time that a fight has been featured.
Didn't Metcalf swing a helmet a couple of years ago? Like,
that was at a training camp that I think I was even at. That seemed more brutal than even what we saw here. So
well, yeah, because he was using a weapon.
Right.
Yes, helmets hurt.
So
man.
yeah, Derick Hall just going after Cable Dew from behind, but. And that felt like the more serious one because it was like Connor O'Toole and Bobby Hart getting into it, and I'm like, okay, well, if these guys fight, okay. But yeah, it got a little more serious, I felt like, with Derick Hall getting into it.
Yeah, I agree. And then the more playful side of it after practice, they show the hugging and all that stuff, which was fun. But how about Derick Hall trying to wrestle Leo Williams and
Yes.
Leo Williams being like, what do you call him? Unk. He called himself Unk. He's like,
Yep.
no, he has like that Unk strength. I mean, imagine how strong Derick Hall is, because I can tell you he's really strong. You know, it's
He's
like
really
this,
strong.
he's really strong.
He has like the long arm leverage too.
Yes,
And
yes.
Leo still took it
Still-
over and took him down.
Yeah, that was another reason Leo was
But
my
so,
favorite.
with that too, I'm thinking, oh, please don't get hurt. Please don't
Right,
get hurt.
of course.
But
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get hurt. And luckily, just whatever. It was a clean takedown by Leo, but just goes to show you friggin' Leo's absolute crazy, crazy strength. Yeah, I mean, man. So we get the Frozone. Oh, how about one last? We got Sam. Anything about Sam? He's spinning the ball. It looks beautiful. It's in slow motion. How can it not look good? But any takeaways from our quarterback?
man, he just well, I think the one quote that stood out was him having to remind himself or being reminded that, yeah, we won the Super Bowl. And I kind of love that about him, that it didn't stick with him like, oh, going into the season, well, hey, now I'm Super Bowl champion, Sam Darnold. He obviously doesn't think that, because it seems like Sam hasn't changed because of the team going the distance last year.
I think so too. You know, he seems extremely well grounded and kind of satisfied. I'm not saying he's not hungry and trying to get better every day, but like, not that like, oh, I've arrived so I could stop, but more like I'm here and I'm at a good spot. You know, he seems settled in that way. And I mean that in a positive way, not the negative way.
Now, are you concerned though that he dropped the ring?
Not really. It was tricky. It came from the ceiling, so I'm not too concerned, right? So, his more important ring with the fiance that became the wife, successful. So all good. But yeah, that was the piece for Sam that I thought was a little bit constructed by the HBO gods was when they jammed the LeBron stuff in there. Like, I know LeBron's news. He's the biggest basketball player in the world. I get all that. But when they're talking about like, and Sam says, oh man, the people are getting on him because he went to Philadelphia and Philadelphia is a good team.
Oh,
I was like, Sam, are you projecting a little bit? Like a little bit? Is there some projection here that you're manifesting?
he thinks he's LeBron. Yeah, obviously that's what Sam's doing there. He's definitely directly comparing himself to LeBron James.
Well, they had the GOAT at the beginning when Brady Russell got peed on, and Brady Russell seems like fun. One dude you want at a wedding.
Of course, he would be the one to pick up the GOAT.
Exactly.
Oh, I could pick him up.
Exactly. Oh, it's a full petting zoo. That means I could pick the GOAT up. You know, it's like sloth. Like you're going to live with us now, right? It's like, by the way, the end of Goonies. What are the cops doing? There's $1 billion floating away slowly. They're like, just don't worry about the pirate ship with billions of dollars in gold. And then they're going to let Chunk and family just take home Sloth. It's just like, you're going to live with us.
Sloth
now.
is a grown adult. He can decide who he wants to live with and where he wants to.
Statutes that I think I don't know. If we have any Esquires in the crowd, I'm not sure that Sloth can make those decisions. I love Sloth, but we might have gotten off the rails here, Brandon, possibly.
Yeah, we can blame it on Brady Russell, because between the GOAT and him dancing at the start of the meeting, DJ Nichols in chat saying Brady Russell might just be this generation's Luke Wilson.
Right.
And,
yeah.
I think that's true.
Yeah. Very, very fun. I guess the last thing for me that came through, Brandon, was we started calling Cooper Kupp, Coach Kupp last year. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, it seems like this is what's happening. And, oh, by the way, people say this is what's happening. They're in the room. Right.
I need to go back and watch that scene, or maybe you can break it down fully, because that was one of the things that it didn't fully hit me exactly what was happening between him and Coach Mike, and Coop saying something and then like,
yeah,
Mike
when he
Macdonald
celebrates,
putting his hands in the air. I feel like that's one that I need to go back and diagnose what happened, but maybe you saw.
Mike says very simply like, oh, they were under center the whole time, something like that. It's something about them just being under center. So I think my brain went to that. There was a concept that they can run under center, maybe that last year or some form of it they were like, we can't do that from under center. Like that's what I think was happening. Like, oh man, they're doing it from under center. So I don't know, maybe Kupp was showing him something. Also, it didn't exactly seem in that moment that Kupp actually did anything in that particular scene. It seemed like Mike thought about it, and then Kupp was like, you're welcome. But I don't think he meant it. I think that was more HBO magic, in my opinion. I really don't think that was something that Cooper magically unlocked. I think HBO just wanted to make it look that way. That was my take.
All right. Well, it was a scene where I felt like I was missing something, and so
I think they were trying to make a little bit of a storyline that maybe wasn't exactly there in that moment, which is what documentaries do. But the idea of Kupp being that player coach, and whenever this contract is up, the fact that he is from Washington, I mean, I think he could literally just stay. Like, okay, like you now run the wide receiver room, or you're now, assistant OC, or heck, who knows what happens, right? So after Fleury becomes a head coach after we win another Super Bowl.
Yeah, don't let him leave like you let KJ Wright leave. That's,
exactly.
Ryan 911 saying, I'm a long-time fan of Cooper Kupp since last year, which I assume was his first year in the league. That it's really the only time that matters. Whistle Jacket, Lisa in chat, giving the googly eyes to the Minotaur.
Yeah, everything about the short shorts, the Ford. Was it a Ford? I don't even know, the whatever, the big ass truck he had. And also he was fun. He was fun. They showed, by the way, last thing for me, they showed shadow boxing, and I still think shadow boxing stupid. It doesn't look.
I don't understand the moves.
I don't get it. Yeah. I just like, well, you got to like.
I need a breakdown.
I don't
explain it to me.
I don't. I want to ignore it, and just, if they like doing it and it's brotherly love to them, fine. But I'm just like, well, I don't get it.
I want to get into the competition.
I don't. They can have it. It's cool.
All right. Well, big thanks to everybody who tuned in to us live after the show. It was fun. Maybe we'll do this maybe weekly. We'll have to see how it goes.
I mean, I'm available on Tuesdays. I don't know about you. So Tuesdays are great.
I'm going to be watching the show anyway, and now I feel like it's got to be appointment television for me. It's our Seahawks. When have we ever gotten a Seahawks show that on HBO that really feels like we have to watch it?
Today was the first time ever.
It was the first time ever. So
right. We got 4 more. So I'm in if you're in. Like, why not? Well, we also got almost 200 people with us live right now. So if you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If it's your first time watching the Seahawkers podcast, well, what can we say? Welcome to the flock.
Welcome.
Get in, subscribe.
Our producers, Ryan 911, Michael Knight for coming in. And thanks to all the little flockers who joined us in chat. And yeah, we will be back later on talking Seahawks.
It'll be fun. And hey, you and Adam just put out the Know Your Rivals yesterday with the Rams.
Yes.
It's 2 hours. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of making fun of McVay. And then you guys spin it and talk about the 49ers in the second half. So if anybody out there hasn't seen that yet, I enjoyed it all this morning, and it was a lot of fun. So it's just, I love that. It was good stuff. Plus you get to make fun of McVay, and who doesn't like that? Who doesn't? Yeah. That's the best. He's the worst.
Of course. Well, and that's the thing. We aren't going to get to see the Rams until Christmas.
Right.
So this is really, I mean, we're still going to be following along our NFC rivals throughout the year, but that's probably going to be the last time you get as much Rams content from us until the week leading up to Christmas Day.
Correct. And when the Rams are 2-3 in their first 5, and Aaron Donald's like, maybe I won't come back because the team's not really that good, that'll be a delightful start. But that's 5 weeks into the season. We got about 4 more weeks of Hard Knocks. So we'll be back, Brand. This is fun.
Yep. All right. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.